You ever notice how heavy life feels when you take it too seriously? How every small mistake feels like proof that you've failed? How every quiet moment whispers, you should be doing more? It's as if we've turned living into a performance, one where the audience never claps and the show never ends. We're told to chase success, to prove our worth, to build a future. But nobody ever taught us how to be here for the present. So we plan, we grind, we perfect, and somehow we forget how to live. But what if life was never meant to be a checklist? What if it's not a staircase to climb, but a song to dance to? A song without a finish line, where the meaning isn't waiting at the end, but woven into every note, every pause, every offbeat mistake. What if all this seriousness, all this control and calculation, is actually what's making us miss the music entirely? Today, let's talk about what happens when you stop taking life so seriously. Not as an excuse to escape, but as an invitation to return, to play, to breathe, to laugh again. Because maybe wisdom isn't about having all the answers. Maybe it's about remembering the rhythm and finally learning to dance with it. Somewhere along the way, we were taught that to be responsible means to be constantly worried, that to be a good person means to always be in control. We confuse anxiety for awareness and tension for discipline. We fill our calendars until there's no space left for stillness and call it purpose. We chase productivity as if it's proof of our worth. We live like machines with souls attached, forgetting that efficiency was never the point of being human. We think if we just plan hard enough, control enough, anticipate enough, we'll finally feel safe. But have you noticed? The more we try to control life, the more life slips away. We build walls around the unknown and wonder why we feel so trapped. Look at nature. The waves don't rush to the shore. The trees don't strain to grow. The clouds don't hold meetings about where to go next. And yet, everything gets done. No panic, no deadlines, no performance anxiety. There's a rhythm already carrying things forward, a current of intelligence deeper than our plans. But we don't trust it. We've forgotten how. We think we're steering the ship, but most of the time we're just exhausting ourselves rowing in circles while the tide quietly waits to carry us home. Our seriousness, this constant pressure to prove ourselves, is an attempt to outsmart the flow. We think if we tighten our grip, we'll be safe. But life doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to participation. You can't wrestle harmony into existence. You can only fall into rhythm with it. Carl Jung once wrote, "What you resist persists." And maybe that's what stress really is, our resistance to being what we already are. Because life doesn't ask us to force anything. It asks us to notice. Notice the subtle movements of intuition, the quiet timing of change, the natural unfolding of things without your control. But we rarely do. We're too busy trying to manage what was never ours to manage. We live like actors who forgot they're on stage, terrified to miss a line, blind to the fact that the play itself is improvisation. And here's the quiet truth. The universe isn't grading you. There's no final scorecard. There's only the quality of your presence, the sincerity of your participation. The ocean doesn't ask the wave to prove its worth. It only asks it to move, to rise and fall and return. You are part of that same motion. And when you forget it, life feels unbearably heavy. But when you remember, when you loosen your grip, when you stop trying to control every tide, you start to feel the deeper current again, that quiet intelligence guiding all things, including you. So maybe being responsible isn't about holding everything together. Maybe it's about allowing things to unfold naturally, without fear that they'll fall apart. Maybe maturity isn't about control. Maybe it's about trust. Because the truth is, everything you're trying to manage is already being managed by something far wiser than your plans. And the moment you remember that, the burden of seriousness begins to lift. You realize the universe was never asking you to carry it. It was asking you to dance with it. We live in an age of performance. Everything is content. Everything is comparison. Even our rest must now look productive. We don't take vacations to rest. We take them to prove we're resting well. We don't meditate to find peace. We meditate to feel like we're doing spirituality right. Even stillness has become a strategy. Somewhere along the line, we stopped living and started broadcasting. Every moment now has an audience, even if it's just ourselves, watching through the lens of who we think we're supposed to be. The self has become a brand, and seriousness has become its logo. We wear it like armor, as if looking busy and important could protect us from insignificance. But underneath that polish, there's something fragile, a quiet exhaustion, a constant pressure humming beneath the skin, a fear that if we ever stopped performing, we'd disappear. That's the modern fear of invisibility, not being forgotten by others, but being forgotten by ourselves the moment the performance stops. So we fill the silence with noise, the stillness with scrolling, the uncertainty with 1,000 new goals. We confuse visibility with vitality. But what if the self you're trying so hard to perform was never who you were to begin with? What if all that effort, the branding, the control, the discipline, is just a very elaborate way of avoiding your own depth? Carl Jung called it the great paradox of becoming. We spend the first half of life constructing an identity, and the second half dismantling it, because somewhere under all that performance lives something far more authentic, something that doesn't need applause or validation to exist. That's your soul. The part of you that doesn't care how it looks, only how it feels. The part that doesn't post for approval, but breathes for expression. You can sense it sometimes, in the moments between performances, when no one's watching, when the roles fall silent. That's the real you, the one that was never performing in the first place. And maybe that's what awakening truly is, remembering who you were before the world taught you to curate your own existence. Alan Watts once said, "The meaning of life is just to be alive." It is so plain and yet so simple, and yet everybody rushes around in a great panic as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves. He compared life not to a journey, but to a dance. Think about that for a moment. In a dance, there's no finish line. You don't aim for the final step. You don't rush to the end of the song, because the point of dancing is the dancing, the rhythm, the movement, the feeling. That's where life is actually happening. Every step, every sway, every stumble, it's all part of the music. But somewhere, we turned the dance into a race. We began treating every moment as a means to an end. We turned movement into measurement. And instead of hearing the music, we started counting the steps. Grades, promotions, followers, metrics, achievements, titles, the choreography of modern life. We keep asking, am I doing it right? As if joy had a formula, as if the dance could ever be wrong. We look to others for rhythm, compare our tempo to their timing, and in that comparison we lose the one rhythm that was ever real, our own. When life becomes a checklist, you stop feeling it. You start performing it. You start dancing not to express, but to impress. And that's when life becomes unbearably heavy, because you've mistaken the music for a competition. But when you stop trying to get somewhere, something incredible happens. You start to feel where you already are. You start hearing the melody that's been playing beneath all your striving. That's the moment the body loosens, the breath deepens, the anxiety dissolves into rhythm. And suddenly, you're not controlling life anymore. You're moving with it. This is what Alan Watts meant, that life isn't about reaching the end. It's about participating fully in the unfolding. It's not about mastering the song. It's about letting the song move through you. When a child dances, they don't need a reason. They don't care how they look. They move because the music touched something inside them. They are the dance, completely, unapologetically. That's what the awakened remember, that you are not separate from the music of existence. You are one of its expressions. Every inhale is part of the melody, every choice, every loss, every joy, a note in the great improvisation. The tragedy of modern seriousness is that we've forgotten this playfulness. We think we have to earn the right to dance. We think we need a stage, an audience, a perfect song. But the truth is simpler. The music never stopped. We just stopped listening. So what does it mean to live like a dancer again? It means moving even when you don't know the choreography. It means trusting the rhythm enough to take the next step without needing to see the whole pattern. It means remembering that the beauty of the dance isn't that it lasts forever, but that it happens at all. Because that's what it means to be alive. Not to arrive, but to move. Not to win, but to play. Not to control the song, but to let yourself be moved by it. And maybe that's all life ever asked of you, to stop rushing to the final note and start feeling the music again. Why do we cling to seriousness so tightly? Why does it feel dangerous to let go, even for a moment? Because the ego feeds on importance. It survives by convincing you that your tension is necessary. It whispers, "If I stop worrying, I'll lose control. If I don't take things seriously, no one will respect me. If I don't stay alert, everything will fall apart." But here's the strange part. It's that very seriousness that creates the fear you're trying to avoid. The ego builds a world made of mirrors, each one reflecting back the image it wants to preserve. Titles, opinions, roles, a fragile architecture of me. And so, we keep performing importance. We speak with conviction even when we're uncertain. We rush through days with the weight of invisible expectations. We wear stress like a badge of honor, as if exhaustion were proof of meaning. But who exactly are you trying to impress? Who is this imaginary audience that demands your constant performance? Because when you really look, no one's actually watching. Everyone else is just as busy maintaining their own masks. Everyone else is terrified of being seen without theirs. Carl Jung understood this. He said that the ego is like a spotlight, useful, but blinding if you mistake it for the whole theater. It's the part of you that organizes experience, but it's not the one who is experiencing. When you peel back the layers of identity, student, parent, artist, worker, believer, what's left? Silence, stillness, presence. And that's terrifying. Because if you're not your roles, who are you? Most people never face that question. They'd rather drown in activity than sit in that stillness. They'd rather cling to the illusion of control than surrender to the mystery of being. But beneath all that noise, something vast is waiting, something not fragile, but eternal. You're not the mask. You're the one wearing it. You're not the wave crashing on the shore. You're the ocean beneath it, the endless depth silently animating every motion, every thought, every heartbeat. The ego thinks it must protect that wave, define it, defend it, make it stand out. But the wave never needed protecting. It was never separate from the sea. Life becomes serious when the mask forgets it's a mask, when the wave believes it's alone, when the actor forgets it's a play. And the tragedy is, most of us never notice the shift. We think the anxiety we carry is proof of our care, when it's really proof of our identification. The ego says, "I am the job. I am the parent. I am the one who must succeed." And so every failure becomes existential. Every setback feels personal. Every mistake feels like death. But the soul knows something simpler. It knows that what you are cannot be broken by failure or inflated by praise. The soul doesn't need to perform importance because it is importance, the quiet kind that doesn't need validation to exist. The moment you remember this, seriousness starts to soften. You stop defending your identity and start inhabiting your aliveness. You realize that the ego's job was never to run the show, only to play a role in it. And suddenly, life becomes lighter. You laugh more easily, you forgive faster, you begin to flow again. Because when the ocean remembers it's the ocean, every wave, even the serious ones, becomes part of the dance. Look closer at the world around you. Everything alive is playing. A cat chasing a leaf that never needed catching. Children laughing in a puddle, soaking themselves in joy for no reason at all. The wind teasing the trees, bending branches just to hear them whisper. The universe isn't working. It's playing itself into being. From the orbit of planets to the flicker of fireflies, everything moves with a rhythm that isn't effort, but expression. The Taoists had a word for this, Wu Wei, effortless action. It doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing without forcing. It's the way water shapes mountains, not through control, but through persistence. It's the way flowers bloom, not through planning, but by responding to sunlight. And when you start living that way, with that kind of trust, you realize something profound. Seriousness is not strength. Seriousness is resistance. It's the mind saying, I know better than life. It's the ego trying to choreograph the dance of the cosmos. But playfulness is alignment. It's the body and soul remembering that existence was never meant to be managed, only moved through. Playfulness isn't the opposite of depth. It's what depth feels like when it's alive. Because real play isn't shallow. It's not about distraction or escape. It's awareness in motion, a dance between attention and spontaneity. It's the soul expressing itself freely, without needing justification, without asking for permission. When you're truly playing, whether it's painting, walking, talking, or simply breathing, you've stopped trying to get somewhere. You've returned to the rhythm of being, and that rhythm is effortless. You've felt it before. Those moments where time disappears, where laughter spills out of you without meaning to, where you create something beautiful without trying, where your body moves and your mind follows. That's not distraction. That's divinity. That's you syncing with the pulse of the universe. Try this for a day. Instead of trying to get things done, try to move beautifully through them. When you walk, really walk. When you eat, actually taste. When you listen, listen. Not to reply, but to feel. You'll notice that the same tasks feel lighter, the same conversations sound clearer, the same challenges seem less personal. Because when you stop gripping reality, it stops fighting you back. And maybe that's what the universe has been trying to show you all along, that life doesn't respond to force, it responds to flow. You don't have to push the river. You don't have to control the music. You just have to remember that you are already part of the song. So let the universe play through you, like wind through leaves, like waves over sand, like laughter echoing through an open sky. Because you were never meant to work your way through existence. You were meant to dance it into being. The moment you stop trying to manage the rhythm, you finally start to feel it. A huge part of taking life too seriously is the fear of making mistakes. We spend so much of our energy trying not to fall, trying to say the right thing, make the right choice, live the right life, as if existence itself were a test with correct answers. But look back for a moment. Haven't most of your greatest insights come from what didn't go according to plan? You learned to love through heartbreak, the kind that cracked you open enough to understand what real connection requires. You learned humility through failure, the kind that stripped away your illusions of control. And you learned peace not through success, but through exhaustion, when you finally stopped running long enough to rest in what is. Life isn't interested in perfection. It's interested in participation. You can't control it. You can only join it. And when you finally do, you realize something beautiful. Mistakes aren't interruptions to life. They are life's way of getting your attention. They're not detours, they're directions. They're the universe's way of saying, not here. Look deeper. Try slower. The ego wants to choreograph the entire dance, but the soul learns the steps through improvisation. You only find your rhythm by missing a few beats. You only find balance by wobbling. Carl Jung wrote that, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Mistakes are how the darkness becomes visible. They reveal where the light still needs to reach. The wise don't avoid falling. They learn to fall well. They stop fighting gravity and start cooperating with it. They turn every stumble into choreography. They understand that the point was never to stay upright all the time, but to keep dancing no matter how many times you trip. Because that's what it means to be human. To fall, to rise, to laugh about both. To see that life isn't a performance to perfect, but a playground for becoming. So the next time you make a mistake, don't tighten up. Open up. Breathe. Notice what life is trying to show you. Because sometimes, falling isn't failure. It's the universe teaching you how to land with grace. People often ask, If I stop taking life seriously, won't I lose my purpose? No, you won't lose it. You'll finally find one that's real. Because seriousness is obsession with destination. Playfulness, on the other hand, is devotion to the process. We've been trained to believe that purpose is something far away, something you must strive for, prove, and achieve. But purpose isn't a trophy. It's not waiting for you at the end of the path. Purpose is the path. It's how you walk it. It's the quality of your presence in motion. Think of nature. A tree doesn't grow because it has a 5-year plan. It doesn't set milestones or make vision boards. It grows because it can't help but express what it is. The tree's purpose is its being, its roots deepening, its branches reaching, its leaves turning sunlight into life. And that's real purpose, not a performance, but the natural unfolding of what's true in you without the pressure of pretending. You see, the ego's version of purpose is about control. It says, I'll be enough when I get there. But the soul's version of purpose is about participation. It whispers, I'm already enough. Let's see what happens. When you live from that space, you stop chasing meaning. You start radiating it. Your work becomes lighter. Your relationships become truer. Even your pain becomes more compassionate. Because everything you do from that place, from authenticity instead of ambition, carries a quiet sacredness. It's no longer about reaching the peak, but about breathing fully on the climb. You don't dance to get to the last step. You dance because the rhythm is too beautiful to ignore. So let that be your purpose. To move with sincerity, to act with presence, to create because something inside you wants to sing. When you stop taking life so seriously, you don't lose purpose. You become it. There's a reason every enlightened sage ends up laughing. Buddha, Lao Tzu, Jesus, Alan Watts. Different paths, same punchline. It was never that serious. All that striving, all that worrying, all that endless seeking for meaning and control. And the answer was right here the whole time, hiding in plain sight, smiling back at you. You see, life doesn't need your seriousness. It doesn't need you to tighten your grip or earn your worth. It needs your sincerity. It needs your participation, your presence, your laughter. Because laughter isn't escaping reality. It's embracing it. It's what happens when the illusion of control collapses, and for a brief, shining moment, you see how perfectly ridiculous and perfectly beautiful it all is. Laughter is the soul's exhale. It's the universe chuckling through you saying, I told you it was okay. You just forgot to play. Maybe enlightenment isn't a thunderbolt or a halo. Maybe it's just that the moment you stop pretending you know what's going on and finally relax into the mystery. Because when you laugh, you stop resisting the flow of life. You stop standing outside the dance and start moving with it. The great cosmic joke isn't cruel. It's compassionate. It's the reminder that you were never meant to figure out life, only to feel it. So when the world feels heavy, when your mind gets too loud, just pause and smile. You're not missing the point. You are the point. So, don't take life too seriously. You'll never get out of it alive anyway. But more importantly, you were never supposed to. You weren't sent here to conquer the world, to prove your worth, to build a monument that time will forget. You were sent here to experience it, to touch, to taste, to love and to lose, to cry and to laugh, to dance, and to remember that the music was never about the final note. Because when you finally let go, you don't fall into chaos. You fall into rhythm. You begin to feel the pulse that was always beneath the noise, the quiet intelligence that's been guiding you all along. Maybe that's what enlightenment really is. Not an answer you discover, but a surrender you allow. The moment you stop trying to figure life out and start feeling it instead. So breathe, laugh, move lightly, don't rush the melody. You're not here to win. You're here to play, to join the dance that's been happening since the beginning of time. And when you play, sincerely, joyfully, without agenda, the universe plays through you. Every breath becomes part of the song. Every step becomes part of the dance. And in that sacred rhythm, you finally see it. Life was never something to master. It was something to enjoy.